Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Squared Up V4 release webinar. My name is Matthew Long, and I'm thrilled to be able to introduce Richard Benwell, our founder and product architect, who's going to take you through this release today.
All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this webinar. Squared Up 4.0 has been in development for over a year now and is the result of some extraordinary hard work across everyone here at the team at Squared Up, and indeed our customers and partners that we've been working with during the tech preview stages. And I'm privileged to be announcing it and showing you around it today on this webinar. The agenda for today, I'll sort of intro some of the thinking behind Squared Up 4.0, why we built it, why it's a major new release. We'll then move on to looking at the features in detail, and of course I'll give you some live demos. That will be the bulk of the webinar. I'll finish off with some details around availability, so when you can get your hands on Squared Up 4.0 and some top-level advice around the upgrades. And then we'll look at the pricing model, look at the next steps, so when you can get your hands on this and where to go next. And we'll finish off with a Q&A. I'll have Matthew here and the technical team responding to questions as we go along. So if you are joining us live, please do use the chat window and ask questions or give feedback. And Matthew will sort of cover that as we go along. And then hopefully at the end we'll have an opportunity to cover off some of those publicly. All right, let's get going. Why Squared Up 4.0? If you've heard us talk before and sort of met us in person, you'll know that we're absolutely sort of passionate about this mission, which is solving the challenges of enterprise IT complexity using data visualization. That's why we exist as a company. And beyond that, going just one step further, we also recognize that enterprise IT needs to better understand and use the data it already has, rather than just collecting more monitoring data. And the reason why we're all here is because we have System Center Operations Manager that has collected that vast amount of monitoring data that we can unlock to better do our jobs in IT. The Squared Up release history, I just wanted to kind of take you through briefly sort of our journey along that mission. Some of you on the webinar probably joined us back in the V1 days. We were the first to bring an HTML5 dashboarding solution to SCOM back in 2012. Across a number of releases there, we introduced new tiles, new integrations with the data warehouse. V2, we launched our dashboard designer, interactive dashboard authoring, open access dashboards, allowing you to push out dashboards across your entire organization, and a bunch of feature releases on V2. V3, 2 years ago now, just when we went to Ignite, we launched V3 with the all-new total dashboard architecture, allowing you to push those visualizations all the way down through the stack, down to individual sort of servers and components. And we also introduced visual application discovery and analysis to the world. Many of you may have then sort of joined us more recently across that V3 journey as we've released features on top of that V3 platform. The web API tile allowing integration with other data sources such as ServiceNow. Introducing 3.2, where we brought the health state summaries, the grid display, and so on into the product. 3.3 with a status block tile and some enhancements in Veda. And the most recent release, 3.4, was just earlier this year. So actually we've been developing V4 for over a year now, but have released 3.4 in the meantime, which introduced the donut tile and dashboard export to Excel, and also tidied up the Azure integration to allow you to integrate with log analytics. So hopefully most of you on the webinar are currently on 3.4. And I hope you'll agree that when it comes to SCOM dashboarding, we've got you covered. That's not one dashboard, that is a compilation of many different dashboards, just in case you ask us how to get your hands on that dashboard. But when it comes to putting those dashboards and visibility on top of all that data in SCOM, we have all the bases covered. So we're all sorted, right? We've got our dashboards, we've got SCOM, we're in control from an IT organization point of view. Well, unfortunately not. We still have the issue of applications going down, and there are fires in the IT department and trouble trying to locate the kind of root cause and remediate the issue. Typically, when you do have an application go down, it's the service desk that first hear about it from the end users. They might escalate it to the app team, who may have made some changes or maybe not. So often it comes across to the DBA sitting in the background there. Fundamentally, the database is behind many applications, and that's where the issues can lie. The DBAs are always suspicious of the virtualization layer, so often it gets pinged off to the Hyper-V team, let's say. They might deny it, and it comes up to the server team. And of course, inevitably, it always ends up with the network guy that just deny everything. So really very hard to locate issues. Your applications are still going down, even with all this visibility across your infrastructure. And from an IT management point of view, having to deliver services to your business, it can be very frustrating. Despite all these investments in monitoring, you still can't get the visibility and the agreement on the root cause. And of course, you get bosses that get angrier and angrier and angrier. So we really need to move on and address this issue. I think within the IT industry, it is well recognized that we have to move from infrastructure monitoring, back in the days when we were just looking at servers and server health and whether it's up or down. And from a business point of view, we need to move on to application monitoring. We need to understand whether we're delivering the quality of services to our business. And that's what we're doing with Squared Up. Now, the challenges of application monitoring within the enterprise are specific and different to just general application monitoring challenges that you might hear about from APM vendors, for example, who focus on monitoring one specific application. Within the enterprise, you typically have hundreds of applications across your environment. These will be installed not just on a nice clean set of infrastructure, but typically a very sort of heterogeneous infrastructure, so a mix of on-prem and cloud perhaps, different Windows stacks across Linux, Oracle, SQL Server, and so on. So a vast sort of array of different types of applications on different types of infrastructure. Not all of those applications will be currently developed with an active DevOps team. Some of those will be legacy applications, third-party applications. You may not even know what applications you have where. So typically you have established tools, but we all know the story about those tools being siloed and giving only sort of one piece of the picture. And fundamentally, in the CMDB, you typically don't have just one common application model that you can understand the health of an application across all of these different infrastructure and tools. So those are the challenges of enterprise application monitoring. We believe that SCOM is perfectly positioned to meet those challenges. And that's why with Squared Up V4, our mission is to enable IT organizations to deliver true enterprise application monitoring, so addressing those challenges by leveraging their existing investments in SCOM. So that's what we're set out to achieve with V4. The three pillars fundamentally of Squared Up Enterprise Application Monitoring is our visual application discovery and analysis technology, allowing you to map out your applications and understand how your infrastructure relates to your services. Once you've mapped out your applications, you can also then deliver actionable dashboards, end-to-end application dashboards, both for your end users but also for your operations teams. And in addition, using our web API integrations, create one view across all of your IT monitoring data in the context of your applications. So that's what we're delivering with enterprise application monitoring with Squared Up. And now I'd like to move on to tell you specifically what we're doing with Squared Up 4.0 to address that. So I'm breaking the features down into two parts. The first part, I wanted to talk you through some of the dashboarding fundamentals that we've improved in Squared Up 4.0. And then we'll go on to part two and look more specifically at the enterprise application monitoring. So first up, industry-leading IT dashboards have just got better in Squared Up 4.0. I'll go through each of these features in detail, but we've updated the navigation experience, introduced a new concept called team folders, a brand new tile matrix style, revamped the high availability architecture, and also improved our community integration. So let's get going and have a look at these different features, and then I'll go through a demo and touch on some of those. So first up, a new navigation experience, allowing you to really scale the number of dashboards into the hundreds and make sure that each user gets a customized experience. So we've got a tab-like main menu at the top there, so that allows you a bit more context of where you are within your dashboard hierarchy. We have a nice now sub-menu for that folder showing the breadcrumbs. So you can see here we're in the virtualization folder. And the folder views also then allow you to rearrange your dashboards, and we've revamped that navigation bar editor. So hopefully you'll enjoy the new experience and your end users will enjoy that new experience and allow you to now really sort of scale out the number of dashboards you have and make sure that each user has access to the dashboards they need day to day. Next up, and very much related to that, is team folders. Team folders will allow you to deliver a really fully customized monitoring experience to each team. It integrates with the navigation experience, so we can create folders here just right within the nav bar. And then you can convert those folders into team folders. And team folders essentially provide dashboard access control. So on top of your SCOM, role-based access control, you can now use team folders to control access and your permissions on your dashboards. So delegating both view, author, and owner permissions across your dashboards. So now you can create a folder, push that out to one individual team, and delegate, for example, the team owner, the team leader, to build those dashboards themselves. And I'll show you that in a demo just in a second. In terms of the users there, just to note that we have Active Directory integration still. So you can push these out to either Active Directory groups or individual users. A brand new tile joins us in Squared Up 4.0, which is the matrix tile, allowing you to create dashboards packed with monitoring insights. So really kind of jamming in as much information into a single dashboard as possible and giving you a single at-a-glance view of all the information you need. Now, this replaces the dynamic table that you may have been familiar with in Squared Up v3, and we have those existing visualizations from the dynamic table, so health icon, sparkline, bar chart, and monitor status, for example. But we're also introducing some brand new visualizations along with the matrix tile, SLA gauges you can see in the screenshot there, as well as health state history. So now giving you a sense of the historical health and status of your servers and applications, and a status block tile for high impact dashboards using the matrix tile. And we'll come on to some of those in the enterprise application demo later. All of this is configurable, so you can now choose which visualizations go in which column and configure each of those visualizations just like you do with the dashboard tiles, and that's all through an in-product JSON editor. All right, so that's the matrix tile, and then just a couple of other sort of features I want to mention which I won't be able to demo. High availability architecture has been entirely revamped, so redesigned, ready for greater simplicity in deployment, reliability, and of course scale. If you are already using high availability in v3, there's no changes to the network share requirements. It's still essentially driven from a network share behind each one of those nodes. But we've simplified it down just to be a single file stored on that share. You've got full redundancy across every node, so every node has a full copy of all your dashboards, just in case you do have a failure of either network share or any other node. And now all of your dashboard changes are fully transactional. So any change made in one node will be replicated across to the other nodes. And again, with more users on your Squared Up instances, possibly more authors making changes, that's really, really important that architecture is going to scale now. Just lastly, on some of the platform changes, we have taken our community integration to the next level, added some more features allowing you to benefit from those community-created dashboards. We have a really nice feature now where the community dashboards will be suggested based on what SCOM management packs you have installed. So for example, on the right here, we've got a recommendation to install an IBM DB2 dashboard pack because you have the management pack from our partners NICE. You have those in-product notifications to allow you when there are new packs available, so you don't miss out on new dashboards being created by the community. And we've also revamped the actual community platform page as well to allow greater feedback of dashboards and easier to contribute. And we'll be making more investments in that post 4.0 release. All right, so that's just a quick intro into some of those dashboarding fundamentals and the features we have there. And I just wanted to try and wrap that all up into a quick demo. It'll take sort of 5 minutes or so. And then we'll move on to look at enterprise applications. So let's fire up Squared Up 4.0. So you may have noticed a new logon experience there and a new getting started page leading us towards creating dashboards, mapping out applications, and importing dashboard packs. I'm just going to navigate through into the one of these team folders here, or one of these folders rather. Just going to drill down into the web team, and you'll see the new navigation experience. So I no longer have just that top level navigation bar sitting there that I need to sort of re-navigate to switch between dashboards. I can now switch between the dashboards in my web folder just with a single click here, switching back and forth. So for your users who do perhaps use a handful of dashboards, day to day, they can now have those dashboards all sitting there in one folder and easily switch between them. This is an example folder here for my web team containing just a couple of dashboards. What I'm going to do is come into the web team folder here. And I'm just going to click on the permission. So at the moment, this is just a regular folder in my nav bar. All the users can see these dashboards. If I just click on permissions here, it's going to prompt me to convert this folder into a team folder. So I'm just going to click on that. So we have a similar view now. So this web folder is now a team folder, which allows me to manage the dashboards within it, but also now allows me to modify the permissions on this folder and push this folder of dashboards out to a specific team. So let's start off by doing that. What I'm going to do is just put in a group for my web admins. And I'm going to give them author permissions in this folder. Now, these admins shouldn't have author permissions elsewhere. Obviously, they can't go and modify, say, the Hyper-V dashboards, but I do want them to be able to modify and create their dashboards for their web team. So I just hit add there, and that's confirmed. And we can see here that as an administrator, I'm still owner of this folder. We are allowing everyone else to see these dashboards, but it's only going to be those web admins who can author dashboards. So let's just grab this URL and come into a private browsing window here and rebrowse. So now I'm going to log on as one of those web admins, and we should see, oops, that is not going to help. There you go. So now just log on.
Oops, yeah.
All right. So now I've logged on as one of these web admins. So I'm no longer a SCOM administrator or a squared up administrator. Now you can see I have access to all of the dashboards still. So I can come in, for example, and see those SCOM alerts. But you can also see that I can't edit this. I can't create new dashboards or I can't edit this dashboard and make any modifications. So I've got some visibility, but no ownership of these dashboards. However, when I come into the web folder, because this is a team folder that's been delegated out to me and my team, I now have the ability to both kind of create new dashboards and folders and structure anything I want, but also to edit the dashboards that are there. So that's allowing you to delegate out those permissions, both view and author permissions across your teams with Squared Up 4.0. So now I'm going to lead into just making a quick edit and just sort of introduce the matrix tile and just sort of show you how you can use that within a dashboard like this. And we'll also see the matrix tile in action a little bit later as well. So here's a good example. I've got a dashboard here showing me the alerts, the health state of the servers, and some key IS metrics. But I'm missing really an insight into the specific health of those servers. I can't see CPU, memory, and so on. I'm just getting that top level health state. So if I just come in here, I'm going to click edit. And instead of using the icon tile, if I just back out here and choose the matrix tile, and let's just rescope that to the IS computers, I get a tile that springs to life with all of the data I need to monitor the operating systems on these servers as well. Now that's data is coming from a built-in perspective we have for IS web servers. So you can see here we've automatically chosen a good perspective containing all those columns from the dashboard packs that you have installed. And I can specifically choose that perspective, or if I wanted, for example, a more operating system perspective, I can choose a Windows Server 2016 perspective. So I already have the IIS data here, so I'm just going to choose the CPU and memory. So that's allowing you to choose the perspectives you have, or you can now come into the JSON editor to customize this. So for example, if I'm not really interested in the number of CPUs on those servers, I can just delete that column, apply my changes, and update my matrix tile. I can also choose to have that as a larger visualization if I want better visibility of that, say for example a wall monitor. So that's upgrading a status tile to a matrix tile. As you can see now, that dashboard, having published out my changes as one of these authors, I now have a lot more information on that dashboard, and at a glance can see both the health state of the server overall, but those KPIs for those servers. All right, so that's a quick introduction into the new nav bar, team folders, and the matrix tile. I hope you like the look of that, and we'll come back to the demo in a second. So I've covered off those. It's a very, very sort of high-level demo. Obviously, I haven't touched the HA architecture or the community integration. Fear not. We will be going through some technical deep dives. I've got Matthew here sort of just ready to go on some technical deep dives on webinars coming up in October. So we'll kick off a Squared Up 4.0 training series, and we'll cover each one of these in much more depth, give you a real sort of behind the scenes look at each one of these and what you can do with the features. So please do sign up for that when we've launched the webinar series for October. All right, so moving on to the second half and coming back to really the driving goals sort of behind Squared Up 4.0, and that's around enterprise application monitoring. So as a quick overview, there's a lot that's new in Squared Up 4.0. We've taken our Veda technology and really filled out a full enterprise application monitoring solution around it. We've got a new application health model separating user availability status from infrastructure status. We've got a designer, an EA designer that's a joy to use, and I think you probably know what I mean by that if you've ever touched the DA designer in SCOM. We have availability monitoring that's essentially built into Squared Up, so you can now configure availability monitoring very, very simply within the HTML5 console. We have Veda, revamped next generation Veda, allowing you to map applications across your infrastructure. We have added in additional application monitoring that really means that you've got actionable alerts and health state that your application teams can respond to. We have a brand new feature called end user availability reporting, allowing you to deliver messages out to your end users based on the health state of your applications, and of course a whole set of dashboards and SLA reporting that are actually meaningful to your business. So in summary, it's distributed applications done right. If any of this does sound familiar, obviously it's what the Microsoft product team were trying to deliver with DAs, back many years ago, and as we'll all know, it falls short in a number of different areas, and certainly that's what we're trying to address with Squared Up 4.0 and enterprise applications. So let's go through each one of those features in a little bit more detail, and then again I'll try and wrap that all up in one demo once we've covered the slides. So first up, and going to get a little bit sort of technical to start, just because I think this is really worth explaining the new enterprise application health model up front. So this is in terms of SCOM objects. We're creating a URL test, for example, or it could be a TCP or other sort of form of test to test the availability of your application and kind of group that up into an availability group in SCOM. In addition to that, we're then, of course, mapping out the infrastructure of our application and containing that within a map group within SCOM as well. And finally, we can also define the dependencies, the downstream dependencies of that application, for example, other applications or sort of third-party applications that application depends on. So we have these three pillars of enterprise applications: availability, the map, and then any external dependencies. These are all contained within a top-level object called an enterprise application. Hopefully you'll become very familiar with that term. We've sort of called it that specifically to relate to what you would be familiar with a distributed application. So here are enterprise applications. They are actually DAs under the hood, so they're a subclass of the DA class. But you can see here they contain the availability map and dependencies, but we have some dotted lines on the map and dependencies, and that's the health roll-up, which I'll explain in a second. So we have got this nice simple structure for modeling our enterprise applications. If we now pull health state onto that, you can see at the moment we're all green. If we then also map on the dashboarding and the sort of surfacing this information to our business, you'll see actually we've also got now a nice hierarchy to surface different levels of information to different users within our business. So at the top level, we really want to be telling our users and other application stakeholders across our business the health of this application. And as you can see, it's currently green, which is all good. We also want to then give one level down in terms of the status of the application for our IT operations team. So when the application is healthy or perhaps even sort of unhealthy, they want to see that breakdown of exactly where the issue lies. Then, of course, at the bottom tier here, we have the real detail of the monitoring, so individual monitors, all the performance metrics as well for troubleshooting. So at the moment, the application is all green. If we take a scenario where the database goes red, you know the health roll-up model that SCOM is famous for. We have the database go red, then that database tier within our map go red, and of course our map goes red. But you'll notice we've got this dotted line between the enterprise application and the map. So the enterprise application itself does not go red. And that's always been one of the sort of fundamental stumbling blocks with distributed applications, which is they map out your infrastructure, which is great for infrastructure monitoring, but it's not relevant for your business users. So here the application may be having some issue that's not affecting availability. That gets surfaced up to the map level for our IT operations team, but our user and our business and ultimately our SLAs are not affected by that issue. Now, if we do notice or do detect an outage through our availability testing, that of course does roll up to the top level of our enterprise application. So we've got all the detail from a troubleshooting point of view. Our IT operations team can see that availability is affected by this infrastructure issue across our component map. And of course, we also want to surface that up to our users and our business. So that's the health model summarized, and the rollout model as well. And of course, there's much more detail that we'll go through in a future webinar. So that's the EA health model. We've also got the EA design to help you build these enterprise applications. So very fast, pain-free application modeling. So you can model these applications directly within Squared Up. Every time you create a new application, I'll show you this in the demo, a new management pack is created. So that contains each one of your application models and related monitoring nicely within one management pack that can then be easily managed within SCOM. Using the EA Designer, you can configure the availability monitoring that I'll come on to in a second. Of course, you can map your infrastructure using Veda and also define those dependencies. So just drilling down one step now into the availability monitoring. The goal behind the availability monitoring was to take all of the capabilities that SCOM has and surface those in a really easy to use interface, allowing you to monitor the availability of every single one of your applications, whether that's a web app or not. We want you to be able to at least get availability monitoring covered across all of your applications using SCOM. So you can see here on the right-hand side, just a sort of preview of the UI. We have simple URL monitoring, so very, very easy UI just to set up some basic web monitoring of your web applications. If they're not web apps, if you need to monitor some other sort of back-end system, you can use TCP monitoring, again, very simple to set up. Or for a much more kind of complex application, perhaps even an application with a client-side component and a client UI, you can use advanced PowerShell-based monitoring, a really exciting new feature. I think probably sort of influenced by our community PowerShell management pack that we delivered over the last year or so. And we've brought that PowerShell capability directly now right within Squared Up. And this is a sort of fantastic feature, very, very powerful. We've also made it very, very easy to use. So you're not going to have to roll your sleeves up and get dirty with management pack authoring. This is going to be very, very simple to use and for your application teams to use as well. I won't be covering this in detail in the webinar, but we will do a full webinar around custom PowerShell-based monitoring for application availability. You can, of course, also use your existing availability monitors. If you use either the existing built-in SCOM availability monitoring or some third-party monitoring, you can use those monitors within your application models as well. Next generation Veda, there's just so much in V4, and even just in Veda, there's just so much to show and to tell you about. It's going to be really exciting to do some of these future webinars. So next generation Veda, we've taken Veda and we've really just invested in every single level to mean that you can more successfully and more quickly build those application maps across every single one of your applications in your organization. So some top level highlights. Component level discovery, you see that in the preview on the right hand side there. Going beyond just NetStat-based discovery of network connections between servers, we now run discoveries within the servers themselves, looking at how those individual components are contributing to that application. A really, really important area, as you see on the right-hand side there, is SQL databases. So you can now pinpoint the exact database that's being involved in that application, and that allows you to have much more sort of fine-grained discovery. And of course, your application monitoring is also then scoped to specific components that are involved. We have a new filter in user experience that enables you to essentially sort of filter out the noise or keep out the noise, and I'll show you that in the demo. It's a subtle change, but it means that you can very now successfully map out your applications just focusing on those components that are part of your application and not end up with those quite exciting looking but sort of actually quite noisy application maps that go beyond just what you need to monitor for each application. We have introduced additional discoveries, and this is just the start of many additional discoveries we'll have. We've added support for discovering across F5 load balancers. So if you do have F5 load balancers between tiers or at the sort of front end, you can actually now discover through the load balancer and understand what's on the other side of that load balancer. In the case of F5, we've worked with one of our partners, Comtrade, or now Haiku, and that requires their management pack. But if you do have that management pack, you can now discover through those F5s, and we'll be rolling that out across other load balancers and other technology stacks within your organization, working with our partners. And lastly, for applications that do have many network connections, we've also now got a new UI that allows you to filter through those network results and pull in just the components that are part of your application and sort of filter out, for example, any other clients that are connected. All right, so loads to show there. I'll do a very sort of brief demo of that, an end-to-end demo, and then again we'll kind of cover a lot of that off in webinars in October. So we've mapped out our applications. We've also introduced some additional application monitoring that allows you to filter out that application noise or monitoring noise, sorry, and pinpoint the real issues. A few examples of that. One is we have built-in Windows service monitoring. So you no longer have to go and monitor every single Windows service in your environment or work with Excel files that sort of list off the services of interest. As part of component level discovery, we can now discover the specific Windows services that are contributing to your application. You can include those in your application map and they will be monitored. We also have TCP link dependency monitoring that you can see on the right-hand side here. So actually, once you've mapped out your application across the different nodes, Veda will automatically set up TCP monitoring between those nodes to make sure that each one of those components is available to the upstream nodes. So again, really just focusing on what matters to running that application. You understand the map. Of course, you've got all the full infrastructure monitoring that SCOM provides you, but now we're giving you an application-centric monitoring layer that's going to really allow you to quickly pinpoint which component has failed. And as I showed in that map, we include both the specific components, so for example, the Windows service or the SQL database and the server in your map. So you do get a roll-up of the components you need in order to troubleshoot the application. All right, there's more. End user availability reporting. So we're looking at, just in that last slide, the monitoring of the application and the infrastructure itself. We've looked at availability monitoring, but we wanted to take it just one step further and allow you to actually, for the first time pretty much I think in SCOM, step in and override that SCOM health state such that you can surface the right information to your end users. So you can keep your users and your service desk informed by manually overriding the application status. So you don't have to rely on SCOM running some monitor or PowerShell script in the background. You can actually interactively set the health state of the application. You can then, of course, provide an end user service message. So an example on the right there, you can actually now go beyond just what the SCOM alert would tell your service desk or your end users and put in something that's much more meaningful. And you can surface that, of course, on status dashboards using the new matrix tile and push that out via open access to all of your users. Lots of good stuff. And then just sort of finally, I wanted to cover off the dashboards on top of all of this. At the end of the day, despite building out those application models, being able to pull in data even from other data sources like ServiceNow, we also want to surface that information to our different users. So we really looked at how you can provide end-to-end dashboards across all of your different users and roles within your organization that have some interest in the application health. So end user dashboards, of course, and we just talked about that with the service messaging. IT operations dashboards, they have a really good sense of the health of each application and where the problem lies. Uptime reporting for the boss, for the application stakeholders, showing you real true uptime based on availability monitoring, not on infrastructure health. And of course, when you drill down into those dashboards, end-to-end application health and performance. And as I've covered, and it's not necessarily kind of new changes in Squared Up v4, but certainly we've done all of this in mind with the idea of pulling data in from all your other data sources, ServiceNow, Splunk, Azure, AWS, via the web API, and pulling that into the context of your applications. So In the next 5 minutes or so, I'm going to attempt to try and cover pretty much all of what I've just shown you in a very kind of quick demo, at least touch on it and give you a sense of how all this ties together. So let's fire Squared Up back up. Let's come back into the getting started view here. So I'm going to come in to my application page here. We can see the list of applications we have just using the status icon. Not very exciting and just a few of them. But let's kind of click the button and we come straight into the EA Designer. So we've got a new application. I'm going to call this the sales application. And the application we're going to model, I'm just going to put it up, is our demo sales app. Who's been shopping at Sainsbury's on this? So this is the demo application that is a live application running on some infrastructure. So we're going to monitor it from the outside in. So we're going to look at the URL, make sure that this dashboard is coming up for our users. And we're also going to map it across the infrastructure it's running on. So let's start off with the availability monitoring. And really, with V4 and enterprise application monitoring, we're really trying to push you to setting up availability monitoring first. So we'll all be keen to dive in, get our hands on Veda, and get stuck into those application maps. But really, ultimately, for your business, the first port of call is whether that application is available or not. So let's turn on monitoring. We have a choice here of URL monitoring. So as you can see, we've really simplified down the information you need to provide in order to set up a basic URL monitor. You can switch to TCP monitoring, so that's just an address and port there. And of course, we have custom PowerShell monitoring, where we provide you some examples of how you can do much more complex monitoring. So that could be multi-step URL monitoring, so transaction level monitoring. It could be driving a local client app and actually working through an application installed locally on a server, or really anything you can imagine, putting data in from some third-party API, for example, and putting that into SCOM. And we'll cover off loads of examples there with our training content in October. You can, of course, also choose an existing monitor. So if you do have something that is monitoring the availability of your applications already, you can put it in here. Or if you are adept at MP authoring, you can still go and author sort of as complicated monitoring as you want, and again, put it into your application models. In this example, I'm just going to go with my basic URL monitoring. So let's put in, I should have just cut and pasted there. Let's put in our sales app URL. We might want to check that this message is appearing, so we're not getting some other screen which is dead, and we are actually getting a welcome message on that home page. We don't want to look for an error message. A 1 second response time is fine. And again, really nicely, we've sort of just built this straight into the application modeling that we have and build it into SCOM, which is you can now choose the test location for this URL test. So essentially you're choosing the watcher nodes where this URL monitor will run. Now, out of the box, you'll just have the default availability test, which just will be your management servers, but you can also go to SCOM, create new groups that represent different locations. So for example, you might want to test the availability of your application from the cloud. So you might have a SCOM agent running up in Azure, for example, or from your different branch offices and test the availability from a branch office. I'll go with just the defaults, and I've also just noticed that that's wrong there. So that's all I need to do, just those 5 data points, and I've set up URL monitoring. Before I save this off, let's get going with the application mapping as well. Now, hopefully you'll be familiar with this sort of 3-tier app and the sales app that we have discovered in the past in our demos with Veda, but I want to show you now the next generation Veda mapping, and I'm going to start with the F5 discovery. So I'm going to put in just our front end F5, and I'm just going to find the virtual server for that. So this has picked out that F5 load balancer from the SCOM object that's been discovered by the ComTrade or Haiku management pack for F5. So that was already in SCOM. We've found it, but now what Veda has done is interrogated that F5 to discover what it's load balancing. And you can see here now we've actually related that load balancer to the 3 servers represented by SCOM. that are being load balanced by that application. So now I can kick off discovery as we've been used to in the past with Veda. So that's going to run a netstat discovery, but as I say, it's going to enrich that netstat discovery results with component level discoveries. So let's just wait for the results to come up. And this is also our new filter in UX. So instead of pulling in everything that's been discovered that's sort of touching the network on that server. And as you can see here, we've got New Relic, an APM tool sitting here, and some other things that were touching the network at the time. We would end up with a noisy diagram if we included all of those in our map. So actually what we're going to do is just filter in the component of interest, which is the IIS website. So you can see here, we've now discovered which websites are on that server as well. Having filtered that in, Veda has now completed out the map for us. I'm just going to run discoveries on these other web servers as well, just so we kind of complete the picture there. So what's Veda discovered? Well, it's discovered those network connections downstream, but it's telling us specifically that it's the sales app pool actually on IIS that's making that network connection. So we've now got real insight into the connections between our nodes. I'm just going to filter in the websites on my other servers. So I've completed the web tier. And you can see here we've got some connections up into some cloud services. So I'm just going to pull those off. And we've seen that the web tier is actually going through another load balancer. Now with V3 Veda, your mapping would sort of stop there and you'd have to start manually filling out what was behind this F5. So I'm just going to put in F5 app tier. But now with the integration with the F5 management pack, we can run discovery against that F5 virtual server and discover what's sitting behind it. Right, so we've now mapped through our web tier, through our load balancer, and onto our app tier. Now let's just run regular Veda discovery on that as well. So we're running the netstat, and then we're going to run the Windows service discovery. So we can see here we have a Windows service. So let's pull that in. And again, we've now got a much more detailed picture of this application down to the individual components. Now, before I run that on app 2 as well, you can see here that the Windows service is now connecting out to a few different things. Let's drop the AWS connection at the moment. And we can see we've got an Oracle connection. And the component level discovery really comes into its own now when we look at SQL. So run the SQL, the discovery on the SQL server. And again, we've got the information that tells us specifically that connection coming in from that Windows service on App01 is not just going to this server, but is going to the order proc platform database on the MS SQL Server database instance. Now, I can't resist at the moment just showing you a quick other application of this Veda technology. I'm going to take that database name and just search for it. So let's say I'm a DBA. Let's say I don't have this application map. Let's just say I'm troubleshooting a particular database, or maybe the log files run out of space, or I need to understand what's connected to it. I'm just going to come down. I can see order proc. Let's just put in a better description. I'm going to pick the one on SQL 03. I'm just going to open that up in another tab. So it's a bit of a sideline, but I just wanted to show you another application, this component level discovery. I'm on the database. So this is a DBA looking at the order proc platform on SQL 03. If I now run Veda, I can actually run it from this database, and in real time, before I perform any maintenance, see what clients I have connecting in to that database. And again, of course, I can run the discoveries and find out specifically which component on those clients is connecting in. Absolutely sort of fantastic visibility. And as you see, this is not just around that top level application mapping, but this is Veda technology can be used throughout your organization with anyone who needs real-time understanding of what's actually going on in their organization. All right. Coming back to our map, let's just finish this off. We don't yet have the component level discovery for Oracle. Watch the space on that one, but at least we can see the Oracle Windows service, right? So we've got the Windows service discovery, but we haven't got the discoveries looking inside the Oracle databases. So that completes our map. Let's just squeeze that out. And we're ready to save that off. Just one last thing. I'm going to put in email as an application dependency. So this application does send emails. I don't need to map that out. I can just include that in my downstream dependencies. And I'm just being warned here that I forgot to give these names. I'm ready to save. All right, so at this point, I can hit save. You can see here that it's going to create a new management pack for me to bundle all this information up just into one management pack. It's automatically generated a name, of course, you can change that. Then I'm going to hit save and it will generate that management pack, push that through into SCOM, and you have your application modeled, and you can start using that application model through your dashboards and other monitoring. The base classes for enterprise applications are stored in a base class management pack. So there's one management pack that you'll install when you install V4, and these other management packs will depend on that library management pack. But these are individual sort of management packs that you can edit and remove for each application. All right, so I'm not going to hit save just in true sort of SCOM demo style. I'm not going to hit save just because it will sort of slow SCOM down just for a few seconds. So I'm just going to switch over to one I've made earlier. So let's come over here and we'll see the result of that modeling. So I'm just putting in sales app and switch over to the one that I pre-created. And of course, you do have to wait a little while just for all of the SCOM discoveries to run and for all of the health state to populate. If I just come back in to edit app, you'll see here, this is back into the EA designer, but the application is already created. So I already have URL monitoring set up. I already have my map set up, and I've already got my dependencies set up. So now I can start building dashboards on top of this application. So how does this look? Well, we have the breakdown that I talked about in terms of that health model. So we've got the availability of the application is green. So according to SCOM, users can currently access this application, which is great. And you can see here that despite the map components having an issue, so we've got high CPU on one of our servers, the availability is unaffected, and we can report to our business that this application is healthy. So the fact that the SQL Server has high CPU is not affecting our SLAs here. We can still report 100% uptime for this application. We've also got reported availability. So if we do manually report a change in availability to our end users, that will appear here, and we'll see that sort of very kind of clearly on our dashboards. We've created some out-of-the-box perspectives for you. So given that we've set up some nice URL monitoring, one click and we can see the health of the URL monitoring over the last 12 hours, for example, and the response time. So let's just see how that's been doing over, say, the last week, or maybe even the last sort of month, and we can kind of get a sense of how this application's been performing. So this is all just out of the box. Set that up using the EA designer, and you'll have these dashboards available to you for your applications. If we switch over to, let's just switch back to 12 hours there, switch over to the map, you'll see the application that we've mapped out, and we'll kind of come back to this in a second. You can see we've got some issues like high CPU on the SQL, but it's essentially not affecting the rest of our application. Dependencies, and here's an example of pulling in data, say from ServiceNow. Now we've got this application model, we can start pulling in that data and having that surfaced alongside all of our SCOM monitoring data as well. So that's our end-to-end sort of application dashboards. I can go ahead and build additional dashboards here. So if I wanted to build a dashboard just showing the health of the database in great detail, I could do that, or my DBA could do that. Or if I wanted to, for example, create an F5 load balancer dashboard, I could do that in the context of this one application. But of course, I'm really interested also in the dashboards we can create for our business. So here's a very, very simple end user status dashboard just showing you the overall availability. And again, this is not the health of the infrastructure. This is now just the health of the end user availability of that application. If we drop down a level, so just going back to the health model, we're now just coming down a notch, we can see perhaps a dashboard that would be used by a service desk where they can see historical availability of the application, the availability now, and the health of both the components and the dependencies. And if we're having to produce reports for the boss, here's the SLA uptimes across 24, 7 days, and 30 days. And of course, these are all just regular dashboards driven now by the matrix tile, so you can configure these to your heart's content and to your business needs. All right, so just one quick demo to wrap this all up. I'm going to break the app. So I'm just going to come over here to one of the boxes, and I'm going to run an upgrade on this sales app. So fingers crossed the script doesn't break, but the app does. So it's just going to be performing an upgrade on the order proc win service that we managed to map out earlier. And hopefully...
You keep saying one last thing like you're Steve Jobs. just one more thing.
There you go. Great. So I'm the app developer. I've deployed. That all sounds great. I didn't look very closely at the warnings there, and maybe I'm just going to go home now and knock off having sort of upgraded the app. Now, hopefully what we should find is our dashboard here that's currently showing a CPU issue on the components, but the availability is fine. We should find that it will update and it will surface to our end users the fact that the application is unavailable. So we'll give that a second or two. What I'm going to come in and do as well is just sort of drill down into that. You can see here, so SCOM has now detected that the Windows service is not running. So that was the Windows service monitoring that the EA designer set up for us. So we've already got the alert in that the Windows service is down. You can also now see alerts are coming in to tell us that the web tier can no longer connect to the app tier. So that's the benefit of the TCP link monitoring, is we now have really exactly the information we need in order to troubleshoot this without even looking at that Veda map. Our services are not running and the web tier can't connect to those services. And you can see here that high CPU does not matter right now, but we do have a fundamental issue. If I come into the map, we can now see the benefit of the component level discovery here included now in the analysis mode. So we have the Windows services showing as critical, and we have those links going red. So we've detected Web01 and Web02 have been running TCP monitors against that port and have detected it's unavailable. I guess with Web03 it hasn't yet rerun that test and hasn't detected it's unavailable, but you can kind of see the pattern. So we have the issue and our application has gone down as well. Let's just check. Yeah, we've broken our app. So straight away our users will know that, so they can see that the sales app is down. Our ops team can now see that sales app is down, and of course we do have issues on the components. Now, what I'm going to quickly do is, as the service desk operator, I'm just going to come in and instead of telling our users that we've just got some monitored issue, I'm going to manually report this as unavailable. App, down. Currently, sort of fix or sort of issue known. Fix ETA 5 minutes, hopefully. Now, the application was already showing red because SCOM had detected it's red, but now we've overridden that with a message as well. So we come back up to our status dashboards. We can now see that we've got this message. Let's zoom in, app down, issue known, fix ETA 5 minutes, right? So rather than just a generic availability issue, we've now got a really meaningful end user service message. So now I'm going to drill down into that sales app, and of course our job is to fix it. So we can come into the map. We can see that our services have stopped for some reason, so I can drill down. Now I could surface this as a nice button here, but let's run this. This is the moment where I realized I didn't check this before I'd done the live demo, but hopefully that now has started that service. And I can do the same with the other one as well, and we'll get our app back online very quickly. So that will flow through, the app will come back online, and hopefully we'll also see the end users being able to access the app. I'm just going to do that here as well. Start both of those services. And then having done that, if I come back, let's just have a look. Yeah, it's still showing as red, but I can come back in here now. And as soon as the SCOM alert has, or SCOM monitor has detected it's healthy, I can make it available again. And we'll set the reported availability to green. And now, just when SCOM has also detected it's green, that will surface on our dashboards, and our SLAs are back up and healthy. All right, there you go. One quick end-to-end demo, hopefully covering off most of what I introduced just on the slides there. Again, loads more to cover in much more detail, so you can get your hands on this and really kind of understand how to put it into practice in your organization. So join us in October for that Squared Up V4 training series. All right, demo's over. Just in the last 5 minutes, I'm going to just sort of wrap up with some information just about how you can get your hands on this and some of the commercial side. We will have a release candidate available in the coming days. That's going to be 4.0.1. 1, and that will be made available to download. You'll all get an email. So if you've registered for this webinar, you'll get an email announcing availability of that release candidate. It is fully tested and fully supported. Of course, it is the very first release that's going out publicly, hence why we've called it a release candidate. You can go ahead, download it, get it into your environments and start using it straight away. We'll then follow that with a general availability build by the end of the month. So that could be just in a week's time, or a little bit longer if we need to respin it based on initial feedback. But you have a GA of the build, V4 out by the end of September. V4 supports upgrades from V3 View, right? So you're not having to rebuild all of your dashboards. But because of the nature of some of the changes we have made that I talked through in the intro on the dashboard fundamentals, there are some compatibility issues. So, for example, moving user profiles to team folders and to adjust your navbar such that it fits in with the V4 navbar scheme. So we have an upgrade assessment tool that you'll be sent announcing as part of the announcement of V4, and you'll be able to run that in advance of upgrading. And we do recommend you pay heed to that tool, have a very close look at what it says. We'd really recommend you get V3 in shape and then run the V4 upgrade on top of V3 once you've addressed any issues that the upgrade assessment tool has highlighted. You'll be able to update your V3 licenses such they're compatible with V4, and we've built a self-service portal for you to do just that, and we'll send you details of that. And we have also developed V4 with a side-by-side upgrade in mind, and it's strongly recommended. So we don't want you just to blat V4 over your V3 environment and hope for the best. We want you to install it side by side, run the upgrade of your dashboards across from V3 to V4, check that out, do some user acceptance testing, and then switch over when you're ready. And we'll have loads more advice, mainly coming from Matthew, in the future days. Quick one on pricing. And it is a quick one because there's not much to announce. Hopefully, if you have worked with us for some years now, you'll know we've got very, very straightforward, transparent pricing. V4 is a free upgrade for paid subscriptions. If you did have the community edition that was sort of freely available, you won't be able to upgrade to the V4. But for anyone on a V3 ESP or EAM license, you'll be able to upgrade for free. No price changes for the Enterprise Starter Pack. So you're getting the matrix tile with all those new visualizations like health state history and SLA gauges, team folders, the high availability and other UX and dashboard improvements. So sort of across the board, you'll get all of those with V4. If you are an EAM customer, no price changes there as well. So your renewals will still be at the same price. And of course, you'll get everything I just covered there from the EA design, availability monitoring, next-gen Veda, and so on. We are introducing a new EAM Plus option. So if you have EAM, you can also do an add-on for the EAM Plus. And that we've just pulled in some of those features there that are a little bit more difficult to get up and running and kind of work with. So PowerShell-based availability monitoring, the TCP link dependency monitoring that I showed in the demo, and the end user availability reporting. So those three features are only available in the EAM Plus option. But in addition, we're also giving you a fully featured dev test license with EAM Plus. So that's open access and Veda all bundled into a dev test license. So if you do go with EAM Plus, you really get the full bundle, the full capabilities of enterprise application monitoring, and hopefully we'll see you sort of be able to use that investment to roll out some amazing application monitoring within your business. So that's it on pricing. More details to follow when we hit GA. In terms of next steps, I don't really need to tell you much because we'll tell you everything you need to know in the release email that's going to accompany the release candidate over the coming days. So watch your inbox for that email coming in. We'll give you the download link, the upgrade assessment tool link, and some general upgrade advice, how to upgrade your licenses via the portal, and how to get signed up with the Squared Up V4 training program that we'll have in October. All right, just one last thing before I wrap up and we go to QA. Just one last thing again. It's Microsoft Ignite. So we are off to Ignite again in Orlando in a couple of weeks' time, so the 24th to the 27th of September. If you're going, lucky you, please come and meet us. Drop us a line at hello@squaredup.com to let us know that you'll be there. And we've got some nice treats for our customers and friends and partners that we've made. So please do let us know that you're coming, and we can kind of make sure you're involved in everything that's going on at Ignite. If you're not so lucky, I'm sorry, but we are doing a live coffee break webinar. So if you're not able to get there in person, you haven't been lucky enough to get that sign off from your business, you can join us on a live coffee break webinar being broadcast from Orlando on Wednesday, 10 a.m. That's the US Eastern time. We made it that date, and we've actually moved the coffee break from Tuesday to Wednesday so that we can make sure we can cover all of the news that's coming out of System Center and Azure at Ignite. So the System Center session, I believe, is on Tuesday afternoon. So that'll all be hot off the press. We'll cover every announcement made by the SCOM team there, and of course any announcements around Azure monitoring on that Wednesday. So please do join us live on Wednesday, the 26th, I think that is,
yep.
and find out what's going on at Ignite. So with that, thank you very much indeed for listening. I hope you like the look of everything we're delivering in V4. A big thanks again to the entire team here at Squared Up that have made this possible, and of course to our customers and partners that have been supporting us getting towards V4 release candidate and GA as well. So thanks indeed. I'm going to hand over to Matthew, who's been monitoring the Q&A, and we'll see if there's anything that we can bring to the table.
Cool. So I just wanted to cover off a pretty common question, which was around the availability monitoring. So one of the sort of number one asks that everyone started flagging is, can you specify users that are being used for that availability monitoring? So I'm hitting a URL, how do I handle that? So the short answer there is yes.
Yes, yeah. So we haven't surfaced that in the UI, and we probably will look to do that in an update in the future. But what you can do through SCOM administration is set up different run as accounts on those different Watcher nodes, or indeed for different applications, depending on your needs. So it's not something that's surfaced to the end user in the sense of the EA designer user right now, but that is fully configurable. Each of those URL monitors and TCP monitors is actually running our PowerShell-based availability monitoring in the background. So it is all just regular SCOM monitors using run as accounts. So essentially anything you can do in SCOM, you can do with that availability monitoring.
Yeah, we'll cover that in the sort of training session, but there's an eye-watering level of configuration you can do there in terms of granularity, and there's not, if you want to make it just, here's the one account we use globally for all our monitoring, bam, you can just use that, and that works fine. The other major question that's sort of come up a lot is F5 load balancers are great, but I have load balancer XYZ.
Yeah.
Help me, please. People keep saying that we know Citrix quite well. I wonder why that is.
Well, so we will be working with other partners, but come help us. As you know, we've always engage the community sort of very directly and sort of seen this as a community effort, not just sort of one vendor producing these products. So if you do have those and want to sort of help us out building the necessary discoveries for that, come talk to us, come find us at Ignite, and we'll have a chat and we'll get going. But certainly you will see greater support for other technologies and platforms coming out with feature releases. So F5 at the moment, Citrix, Netscaler is an obvious one, and Kemp is an obvious one as well. And I think there's a management pack in the community for Kemp anyway. But across those other sort of back-end platforms as well. So we'll be working with our partners hopefully to produce Oracle discovery and any other discoveries that are needed by our customers.
The last sort of common question that came up that I wanted to answer for everyone is, if you're a EM customer previously and you've used Veda, one of the kind of annoyances when you had to change your app was when I remodeled my app, added a new server, now I've got to import a brand new MP all over again. So that's not something we talked about on the webinar, but can you just speak to that a little bit? So how do I update my EA, and what's that experience like?
Well, that's easy. Just as easy as it was to create it. So that EA designer, is a sort of fully fledged designer now in Squared Up V4. So I think I switched between the dashboard and the edit mode with that pre-configured sales app that I had. So given the dashboard, you can just switch over to the EA designer again, hit the visual application discovery tab, manually add in changes, manually make changes, or run discoveries again. So for example, if you want just to rediscover everything, it can discover other nodes that have appeared since you last mapped it, and then just hit the save button and gets updated. Yeah,
so the key point there is it does allow in-place save directly into SCOM now, which is pretty cool. So that's sort of all the common questions I had. The sort of thing I wanted to ask about, because it sort of came up with a few people, is how, with respect to like the ServiceNow integration and things, do you see this sort of as a competitor to ServiceNow? Like, are you saying everyone should use this rather than ServiceNow, or sort of how do you envision that sort of link and the use case there?
Yeah, well, going back to some of those opening slides, the importance I think hopefully we're all aware of, is to move from infrastructure monitoring to application monitoring. ServiceNow is seemingly sort of very dominant in the service management space. So your sort of service desk operations. Really our mission still is to make sure that you can take your investments in SCOM and do as much as you can with SCOM to perform application monitoring. In particular, mapping out of those applications. You have a SCOM agent deployed hopefully everywhere, including your cloud VMs as well. And hence SCOM is perfectly placed to be that data source for application mapping. And to go and deploy out another agent in order to try and map your applications is just, it's just bonkers, right? So you've got your SCOM agents there, you've set up all the security, you've set up all the firewalls. Veda is there to leverage that and produce those application maps. So we're building a lot of application monitoring kind of capabilities out of the box with V4. Clearly, for example, a revenue generating app that has a DevOps team, working 24/7 on it, an APM tool is going to take you further. We're not trying to suggest that SCOM has everything you need in order to do some real low-level monitoring, for example, transaction level monitoring or database level monitoring for DevOps teams. In the same way, we're not suggesting that we have everything ready to give you the service management pieces that you need in your organization. But we complement both APM and ServiceNow and other ITSM tools really nicely, as you can see by combining that data. So really it's an investment in Squared V4 that you can make now and get going with application monitoring now very, very, very easily, but give you paths to then integrate the other tools. And even those application maps, we'll be looking at whether we can bring those over into other tools as well.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, I think that's all the sort of questions we have beyond the ones that are going to get answered in the follow-up email, like pricing and when can I download it and everything else. Thanks for your positive feedback. We've had a few guys who've had to change their trousers apparently throughout their presentation. So that's a high compliment, I assume. So thanks very much for that, guys. And we'll be in touch in the following days with recordings and bits and everything else for you to download. So thank you very much for joining us. We overrun slightly, but hopefully this was very enjoyable and worthwhile for you. Thank you very much for taking us through that, Richard.
Thanks very much, everyone.
And talk to you soon, guys.